So, has the COVID gone? Or are we still having COVID? This is the problem with COVID. Whenever I think it's gone, it comes back. This is the problem. It gets crashes everywhere. So, this is the problem we are facing with the COVID times and challenges we face during COVID times. That's what I'm going to talk about today, managing projects in COVID times. Good afternoon. I'm Niladri Basu. I'm a civil engineer and I'm PMP certified and also membership of uh, Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyor, MRICS. So I run a construction company and we do general contracting works for industrial and infrastructure sectors. And our work is basically in the construction sites, managing projects. I also do a quantity survey and project management work for overseas client on a KPO mode. So during the COVID times, we face a lot of challenges. And we are not trained for this kind of challenges any time before in our course or in our learning process. So today I'm going to share my experience and the management approach I adopted in dealing with the COVID times. So the topics I'm going to discuss today is the COVID effect in general. What is the COVID effect to a common person? How does the common person sees the COVID? And how a COVID effect in projects, how a project stakeholder sees the COVID. This is something which the project stakeholder, he sees in a different angle. He sees COVID, but he sees in a different angle. Then the management approach, the theories of management we can apply and whatever we can adjust to this situation. Then the management applications, how the theories are adopted in the practical field. And then conclusions, question answers. If you have the questions ready in a piece of paper, you can give it to me, I can answer it straight away instead of wasting time. So COVID effect in general, what a common person feels about COVID. So what is the various terms and terminology we have come across during the COVID times? As a layperson, now we all know about biotechnology, bioscience, the medical things about COVID. Every layman knows about it. So we know the variants of virus. Virulence, symptoms. Positivity, infectivity, number of ICU beds, hospital capacity, ventilators, and all kind of medical facilities. Then there's RT-PCR test, RAT, lockdown, work from home, sanitization, mask, social distancing, quarantine. These words are, last 2 years, we have been hearing every day. In every sphere of life, we have come across these words. And now, of course, the vaccine. So this is the COVID effect to a common person. Now the COVID effect in a project. So when this COVID has happened, so COVID has caused a destruction, a crisis, unusual situation, which the project stakeholder has faced. So during tackling of this crisis, the thought process the project stakeholder undergone is the COVID guidelines. So every state, every locality, every place have a different COVID guidelines. So they need to study all the COVID guidelines. Then welfare of human resources, how to keep your human resources safe and healthy. Then supply chain management, how is the vendor, is he able to supply or how is he dealing during COVID times? That also affects your project. Then of course the customer, is the customer is okay or he's discontinuing the project? Or is he going to pay you? Financial hardship, that is always there. And new techniques. So this is the COVID effects in projects a stakeholder needs to address. So you see this picture is not someone shooting someone, it's a thermal temperature recording. And this is the new kind of thing that has been rampant in all projects of thermal screening of people while they enter the sites. So management approach. So the crisis, when you have a crisis, so risk develops. So the management approach has to be something to do with the risk management. So if you can apply the risk management approach to the risk management approach, I think we can deal with this a little bit, the COVID thing. This is some of the projects we did. This is a steel plant, and this is a quantity survey work in Abu Dhabi area. So the management approach. So first approach is identify. So what is this? This is a process of determining which risks may affect the project and documenting their characteristics. The key benefit of this process is to get the knowledge and ability it provides to anticipate events. So various tools and techniques are used to determine this, like information gathering techniques like brainstorming, Delphi technique, root cause analysis, checklist analysis, assumption analysis, diagramming techniques like cause and effect diagrams, flowcharts, influence diagrams, SWT analysis, expert judgment. So what is the key words of this first management approach? So we determine, know the character, have the knowledge about that risk. That is the main outcome of this first management approach. Second is the qualitative analysis. What is this? This is the process of prioritizing risk for further analysis or action by assessing and combining the probability of occurrence and impact. The key benefit of this process is that it enables project stakeholders to reduce the level of uncertainty and to focus on high priority risk. So again, there's various tools and techniques used such as probability and impact assessment, probability and impact matrix data, quality analysis, urgency assessment, categorization. And the key was is the probability and prioritize. So the assessment is that how probable the risk is to affect your project. That's probability analysis. And accordingly, you prioritize whether you're going to put that in your first part to tackle it, or you're going to let it go. So that is important. First, you determine the probability, then the prioritize. Then comes the quantitative analysis. This is almost same as a qualitative analysis, but it has a quantity, a numerical value attached to it. So analysis is performed on risks that have been prioritized by the above, that is qualitative risk analysis. This process analyzes the effect of those risks on project objective. It is used mostly to evaluate the aggregate effect of all risks affecting the project. So when the risks drive the quantitative analysis, the process may be used to assign a numerical priority rating to those risks individually. In case of lack of data, the project stakeholder should exercise expert judgment to determine the need for and viability of quantitative risk analysis. So sometimes data are not available all the time. So you need to have an expert judgment how to get the data. There are various tools and techniques used here, such as data gathering, representation techniques like interviewing, probability distribution, quantitative analysis, and modeling techniques like sensitivity analysis, ENV analysis, modeling, and simulation. So keywords, what you get the output is numerical ratings. So you rate that risk in a numerical value. So first we have done identification. Then We have done the assessment, qualitative and quantitative. Now the response. So what is the response? What is the so this is the process of developing options and actions to enhance the opportunities and to reduce threats to project objectives. The key benefit of this process is that it addresses the risks by their priority, inserting resources and activities into consideration as needed. Each risk response requires an understanding of the mechanism by which it will address the risk. So when there's a response, so response has two kind of effect. One response is to the threats that have come. You have to reduce the threat. And sometimes the response is to enhance the opportunity. Sometimes risk creates an opportunity for you. So we enhance that response, the opportunity and get more out of it. So again, various tools and techniques used such as strategy for negative impact like avoid, transfer, mitigate, accept, then positive impact or opportunities like exploit, enhance, share, accept. So keywords, address, action, reduce threat, or enhance opportunities. This is the response keywords takeaway. Then comes the last part of management approach is control. So this is the process of implementing risk response plans, tracking identified risks, monitoring residual risks, identifying new risks, and evaluating the process effectiveness throughout the project. The key benefit of this project is that it improves the efficiency of the risk approach throughout the project life cycle to continuously optimize risk responses. Again, there are various tools and techniques such as reassessment audits, variance and trend analysis, technical performance measurements, reserve analysis. So again, keywords, tracking, improvise. So whatever response you have taken, you track it, and any improvisation is required, improvise it, and make it better. So summary of management approach. So when there's a risk, first thing is to identify, determining the characteristics knowledge. Then you do the qualitative assessment, prioritize, first do the probability, then prioritize. Then you have the quantitative assessment, you give a numerical number to it and then rate it. Then the response, address, action, reduce threat, enhance opportunities. And of course the control, tracking, and improvise. So now let us, the response, the approach we adopted here, let us try to apply in the project. So we had 5 or 6 thought process areas where the project stakeholder initially was addressing. That first is the COVID rules. So COVID guidelines. So first is to identify that determining characteristics knowledge. So you have to know the rules, you have to see the advisories, you have to see what is the penalties, where locality it is applied, which local is not applied. Then you prioritize probability, effects. Then you give a numerical rating, like the time, finance, deviation for this, following these COVID rules. Then again, you address, action, reduce threat, enhance. So you make your own protocols, SOP to do this job. So after COVID guidelines, you make your own SOP to suit your management style and suit your project. Then of course, tracking, improvise, check. Similarly for human resource, you do the same analysis, determining the characteristics, knowledge, the rules, the medical checkup, what kind of medical checkup are you going to do, whether the manpower has a comorbidity, where are you going to do RT-PCR or are you going to do a RAT? So that depends upon your management style. Then you have the probability, what is the effect? Suppose the manpower, you are getting a manpower is weak, so the probability he'll fall sick more often. So that case, you just make a rule that below certain age or above certain age, you don't allow people. Then the others, you have a well-being formula or a well-being policy. Numerical rating, time, finance, deviation, training cost. Then address, action, reduce threat, enhance opportunities. More space shifts, PP, hygienic, accommodation, transport. So this is for the human resource, what is it going to address and what is the action you are taking and what is the opportunity you have got here. So the hygienic practice, which you didn't follow earlier, now you are trying to follow. You see people here everywhere. You find sanitizer. You feel you have the mask on. Earlier, people don't used to follow all these things, but this has been developed because of this COVID. So that's the opportunity. Then tracking and COVID care, and then improvise. Then supply chain. So determining the characteristics knowledge about the vendors. So state of vendors. How is your vendor? Is he viable? Is he going to supply on time? Or is he going to increase his price? So you have to know what is the state of vendors. Otherwise, you affect your project. So once you know the characteristics of the vendor, the state of vendors, you do the probability is that how much he can supply, or whether he can supply. Then you prioritize. Suppose out of 10 vendors, you prioritize that first 5 vendors will be working for you, and less 5 vendors, okay, keep it in, as a extra. If it's required, you will do it. So you concentrate on these 5 vendors now. Then, of course, the numerical ratings like price, delays, what is the price you have incurred for doing this vendor analysis and whether the vendors have increased their prices and delays, if any. Address, action, reduce threat, enhance opportunities. So, address. So, you have a good vendor, but he's not financially viable. He doesn't have financial support, but you need him for your work. So, you give him some financial support and make him work. Or develop new vendors. Your vendor might be having some sub-vendors. So you can develop the sub-vendors also to work for you. And of course, tracking, improvise, you monitor your project schedule and see how the vendor management is going on. Then the customer. This is also very important because you need to know the state of the customer also. Whether he's able to make payment on time, whether you're going to continue the project. So otherwise, you'll fall in soup if you don't pay in time. So that is also same thing, the state of customers. Then sometimes the customers, they want to renegotiate the price, that they are in financial trouble and they want that to cut the cost of project. So they want to renegotiate, maybe reduce the scope of work. Again, delayed payment, price negotiation is our numerical part. The address, action, reduce threat, and enhance opportunities. So what is the opportunity you can get from this? So if it is a COVID crisis, you get the opportunity, suppose you have made a bad contract by any chance. This is the opportunity to correct the contract. You can, if your client is good, you can ask for a price rise. And if your performance has been good, the client will do it. Then, of course, tracking and monitoring. Then financial hardship. So first of all, you have to determine what is your financial hardship. Whether you are earning less or spending more, or your profitability is low, or cash flow is bad. So you have to determine which is your main problem. So accordingly, you have to strengthen your financial hardship. Like if your earning is low, you have to find ways of earning. How to find ways? Either you take a loan, or you can monetize your assets, or can rent your resources, whatever way. So if your spending is high, so you need to cut cost, or you need to do some extra claims, find ways to get money. Then again, numerical ratings, calculate value. address action, reduce threat, enhance opportunities. So as I said, monetize assets. So sometimes what happens during this period, a lot of your competitors have almost given up business. So competition has become less. So this is an opportunity for you to go into the market and get good contract. Then tracking, improvise. So you have a MIS and financial statements to see and control whatever you have done and make it better. So new techniques. So automatically new techniques have developed, like reduce manpower. You know manpower is a problem. So now is this time to reduce the manpower. Use more machinery to the work, more equipment into the work. Explore remote working. Initially, we think that construction cannot be done remotely, but now can explore this. Then, of course, you have to prioritize and see the availability and operation and sustainability of this different kind of new techniques. Numerical rating, cost and time. Address action, reduce threat, enhance opportunities. You can buy or hire, improvise existing. So this is what are the actions you need to do. And tracking, improvise the right operation and maintenance of the new techniques. That's very important. So whether you're going to do it yourself or you're going to hire an operation manager or you're going to do a MNC, that you have to see. So if you go back to my first slide, when the COVID effect in general, so I talked about the first thing was the variance of virus. So if you apply the same management approach, you see the first is the identification. That is the variance of virus. Then the qualitative assessment. What is the qualitative assessment? That is the symptoms. Then the virulence. That is the qualitative assessment. And quantitative assessment. What is the quantitative assessment? Infectivity rate, positivity rate, number of hospital beds available. So that is all quantitative analysis. So you are actually applying the same management approach to the same old COVID. It's not a project management thing. It's a general management approach. Then you have the responses. What are responses? You do RT-PCR, you have RAT. After you getting a result, you do either quarantine or you stay at home or you have a social distancing. These all are responses. But having said that, all this management approach and all this theory will not work unless you have this mental setup. Adaptability, and perseverance. If you don't have this setup, no management approach will work. No matter whatever lecture you listen to, whatever books you read, this mental setup need to have. First of all, the mental setup is very important to overcome this kind of crisis, which is long-term crisis. A perseverance is very, very important, and you have to adapt. You cannot say COVID has gone away. You cannot give reasons for COVID throughout your life. First 2 months, 3 months is okay. But now you have to accept COVID and find out ways of determining it. So this is the main thing, the psychological strength you need to have to apply any management approach. So thank you very much. I'd like to thank the Realty 2.0 for giving me this platform. And thank you all. Any questions?
Yeah, being a contractor, I just wanted you to elaborate some of the projects you must have signed before COVID.
Yeah.
And you must have executed during COVID, and definitely there's a big cost implication must have affected you. So how did you overcome that?
So this is the typical effect of it. That's what I've said. You renegotiate the price. So, see, client is equally important, and they also know that the project is important to them. So by if they increase your price by 10%, suppose, maybe the overall effect on the projects may be 1% or 0.5%. But if they see that you are not able to perform, then it will be a big loss for them. Sometimes you have to take this into your mind. That is what you say, the opportunity cost. You find this opportunity with your client and get a good relation and try to renegotiate your price. And there are some clients who doesn't renegotiate. I have seen, in fact, they have renegotiated the other way. They're saying we are running at a loss. Please reduce your price. Otherwise, we'll not continue this project. They think that you have already incurred your overhead, fixed costs. You'll not run away. So there are clients like that also. So depending on the client, the attitude, and your involvement in the project. Suppose your bank guarantees are stuck, your securities are stuck, then you are already stuck. So you have to sometimes go with the client. But if you think you can get away, then okay, if the client doesn't negotiate, you can always say, so COVID has been declared as a force majeure condition. If you apply the force majeure condition, it is that no one is binded by the contract. So it depends upon you. But mostly I've seen that if you run away from the contract, you're a contractor's loss mostly. Even if you do the contract as a loss, you can gain it somewhere. If the client is happy, they'll make you profitable somewhere. So this is the experience I have faced.
Time for
Okay.
questions anymore.
Fine.
Unfortunately, we're running late.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you so much.